Good evening, social media. Thank you again for coming out here to JADASA Live. We have a wonderful, wonderful discussion with Mr. Everett Townsend of Townsend Defense. Everett, I want to thank you for coming on to JADASA Live again, for talking to our viewers about what you do in the community, how you can help the community, and how we can help you.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. I'm the half owner and chief instructor of Townsend Defense. I teach hand-to-hand combat and by way of Krav Maga, and I also teach firearms. That includes the Missouri CCW class.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So, before we get into it, everybody, I want you to like and share. Like and share. You can go to our JADASA page, like and share that page, or you can go to our Facebook channel page, JADASA Live. We're asking you to like and share. And if this is some information that you may not need at the moment, we're asking you to still listen in, but also share this with some friends, because we're going to be talking about some much needed information, how to properly handle things, how to protect ourselves, and just some information that we really need to know. That even when I took this class with Mr. Townsend, it was a lot of information that I did not know. He is a wealth of knowledge, and it's information that's going to help us to be safe, not only to be safe, but to be a safety not to ourselves, but to others, because we need to know how to handle things, how to maneuver, just everything that we need to talk about. He has the answer. So I know today, I just want to thank you all for coming out. And so, Everett, he's talked about defense training. So let me ask you this.
Mhm.
First of all, what when did you start this, and what made you even get into the hand-to-hand combat and dealing with the CCWs, the firearms and stuff? Did this something just came out, or you've been doing this all your life, or what?
Well, martial arts on and off most of my life. I started with karate, and then I actually studied ninjutsu, sword and all.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, then I went from there to Muay Thai, some Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and then finally on the Krav Maga, where I kind of stayed. And that's just been something I've done all my life. Guns came along
Okay. So
later.
for those of us like me, and probably a
Mhm.
lot of people out there, explain those three things you just said, because I have no clue what they are. So it kind of tell us in our little layman terms, what is it? Is it like a karate kick, or is it a nunchucks, or what? Explain that to us.
Okay, so the easiest way to explain it, like karate is standard, good old fashioned karate. The Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and the Muay Thai, if you watch the UFC, that's what you see all day long. Those two combined. And so, what Krav Maga is basically that with no rules. That's the easiest way to
Oh,
explain it.
wow.
And then you can kind of break out with the weapons. So then we touch on knives and sticks and guns and things like that.
Oh my God, and that's legal?
Yeah, and
Oh,
taught,
wow.
and I'm not the only one that teaches it.
Oh,
So
wow. So JADASA, everybody know JADASA, what we stand for. We deal with Journey Against Domestic and Sexual Abuse. We work with women and children who come from those type of households, or who may be in that family or in the environment. They may not necessarily be a victim, but you may be in that household. And so we are bringing a lot of things to the community, resources as far as information, awareness, and things that's out there that can help you. So this is one of the things, we're talking about, with the stuff that's going on. And everybody know, and they always saying, I've always read that St. Louis is one of the worst, cities or worst communities in the United States. And of course, we know there's crime everywhere. And so, um let's go to the hand to hand, because I know when we had one of our JADASA events, you actually gave a example. You gave a training, or I don't know what the word I want to use, but you
demonstration.
example, a demonstration. That's it. Good, thank you. You gave a demonstration, and so, um, what are those things? I mean, how do what are those things? How would they help a person like women? Because I know you work with women who probably, and I think you said before, they have either been violated or they have been a victim of crime before or something
Yeah,
of that. Can you expound on that?
yeah. I've trained ladies who've been a victim of some sort of domestic violence, um, or just good old fashioned violent violence. They weren't even domestic. So I have dealt with that. The thing I would say first and foremost, before you get away, if you can, and Krav can help you do that. So one of the things I demonstrated was just how to break somebody's grip so that you can get away.
Okay.
That's one of the main things that I would say do is get away. Because here's the thing, when you look at what the word self-defense means, you know, that's keep yourself safe from harm.
Hmm.
Okay. And I mean, that's what it is. So I mean, if you think about it, look at the president's secret service. They're not there to repel an attack. They're there to keep somebody away long enough to get him out of the situation.
Okay.
Their goal is not to necessarily win the battle. The battle's won when he's safe.
Okay.
And so, and that is essentially what self-defense is keeping yourself safe from harm, however you may have to do that. And sometimes
So
that,
what is your training? What is your back? Are you certified? You
yeah,
know,
I'm a certified Krav instructor. I'm also NRA certified instructor for both pistol and rifle. And I'm also certified by the state of Missouri for the CCW class.
okay. And so I did take that class, and anybody that's listening in on this session, this is a well needed class. I mean, he gives you so much information. It was almost information overload for me. I mean, I had a notebook. I mean, he goes from, the laws. He talks about how to handle the gun, how to carry it. There's different laws. As soon as you cross that bridge and go into Illinois, the laws over here in Missouri is different from the laws over there. I mean, it's just a wealth of knowledge. Talking about even when you go to the training, when you go get certified, or what is it um, when we go and I pass the test when I
So
shot
you
your
when you went to qualify, when you went to shoot.
qualified, when you get qualified and stuff. And also, I know Everett, we talk about that. So let me ask you this: how important is it to um, get this CCW if you so by chance have a weapon in the house? How important and how more how safe are you by having that CCW versus not having it? Because we also know, and I know a lot of people always say this, oh, Missouri is a conceal and carry state, and you don't have to have your license. And so, I kind of beg to differ with that because, because of certain demographics and things of that nature. I
Mhm.
mean, how beneficial is it to, how they say it's better to have something and not need it than to need something and not have it? How beneficial it is to go through the programs such as you have to make sure as they say, not riding dirty or not carrying dirty or whatever, whatever the terminology they use. How, explain that.
I would say this. So technically, and that is technically, you can't conceal carry without a permit in the state of Missouri. However, then you can run afoul of some municipal laws. So that's something to keep in mind. Um, and honestly, even if you chose not to carry on a regular basis, even if you chose not to go forward and actually get the permit, the class by itself teaches you how to be a good gun owner, a good gun owner. You know, how to maintain your firearm. How to store it safely.
Mhm.
The safety rules, the laws. That by itself is worth the price, especially if you're new to firearms. And a lot of people are these days.
Mhm.
That by itself is worth it. You know, even if you decide not to carry, just to have some idea about some things you didn't even know were an issue.
Mhm. And so this program, I know, and this is not for just ladies, men. I mean, there was men in this class. I remember that one guy that was in the class, and he said he was an ex-Marine, or he was either ex-Marine, or I know he was in the military before.
Yeah.
And so he was taking this class, and it was about 20, 22, 23 of us in this class. And but it just go through so much information. I'm telling you, I thought after 4 hours, I was gonna just be like totally burnt out. It was not. It was so informational, and he just bring it so down to earth, and just share with you, all these things that we need to know. We just need to know. They say what you don't know won't hurt you. That's not true. What you don't know can hurt you if you don't know what you're doing, or if you don't know the rules and stuff like that. And so, share with us. You got something that you got out on Facebook. Oh, matter of fact, share your web page information, your
Okay.
phone number if they have, and your Facebook. And then when you do that, share this event that's coming up that you put out, because I read it yesterday.
Okay. So I do have a class coming up called Defensive Handgun 101, Defensive Pistol 101. Basically, it's for people who are comfortable shooting at an indoor range. So if you can go to an indoor range and shoot and hit the target, this is a good class for you, because we go one step beyond that. So what a lot of people don't understand is that when you go to a range, just a good old fashioned indoor range, you are practicing basically the fundamentals of marksmanship, and you can maybe get some drills there um, that are more combat marksmanship related, but you can't move. And in reality, if someone's shooting, you're going to be moving. At least I hope you're going to be moving, because they're going to be moving. Everybody's going to be moving. So that gives you an opportunity to get a chance to draw from the holster, teach you how to draw from the holster safely, how to move, shoot, communicate. But it's mostly just getting used to doing that kind of thing. And then from there, I have a second class the next week, and that is called the Fighting EDC. And that class is for the individuals who may have had a class like Defensive Pistol 101. They're not a new shooter. They make a habit of carrying a gun on a daily basis. They have a holster, they have a firearm that they like to shoot. Yeah, and that's for them. And so now I put a little stress in the situation. You're under time constraints, things like that, and that teaches you it's good to vet your equipment, because a lot of people buy the equipment and don't really get a chance to run it as hard as they need to, and then you get some surprises. Because last time I had this class, about 2 people had a very big surprise. Their gun broke.
Broke?
Broke.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So go back to this. You said something about in your class, it teaches you how to communicate. When you say communicate, what do you mean? What kind of form of communication you're talking about?
Okay, so we'll talk about a little bit of communicating under stress, and we'll also discuss communicating to the authorities when they show up.
Okay.
Okay. But usually that's the saying: move, shoot, and communicate. You should be doing one, if not all 3 of those. So yeah, so basically we'll talk about a little bit of that. It really is to get you to be a better shooter, because the reality is that most people don't train like they should. And even though we're supposed to be this murderous city, which actually isn't entirely true, is how they calculate it is kind of what we call biased, because
Right.
they take St. Louis City by itself.
Yeah, because
Not
city by
around
itself is what,
areas.
300,000 people when it used to be
Mhm.
about 600,000, or almost a million.
Yeah, but so a lot of those incidences have a lot of luck involved, or bad luck, depending on which person you are. And it's also very extreme close quarters. So marksmanship isn't necessarily a thing, but yet people miss and hit. You see all the time cars hit,
Mhm.
people hit that weren't intended targets, because the marksmanship is just not there.
Mhm.
and hopefully that's not people who have CCWs. Most of the time it's not. It's just, bad guy on bad guy violence, or bad guy on good guy who isn't trained violence, and sometimes it's bad guy and good guy with no weapon at all.
Okay.
But
Now you talked to me the other day. You asked me about some particular person name, and I told you I didn't know who he was. And
mhm.
so it seems like obviously this is what I'm getting, and maybe tell me if I'm right or wrong, that in certain areas, rural, this person's name is widely known, but maybe in more of the urban areas, we may not know about it. Is that is I mean, and who is he? And who is he?
I truthfully can't remember who we were talking
We
about.
were you asked me about a person's name, and I guess they do some kind of firearms training at other school districts or somewhere other
Oh, Eddie.
cities.
Oh, Eddie Eagle. That was from the NRA.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, that was from the NRA. So basically, what I've seen is there's not a lot of in the school systems in the urban areas. There's not a lot of gun safety training. For us, it's don't touch it.
But we have active shooter training.
Yeah, but we do have active shooter training, and even that really is for the adults. They really don't even bring the kids in. The kids aren't even involved, which
Right.
I can almost see why. But
Mhm.
we get the active shooter training we get with the kids is nothing compared to what we got as teachers. So
So what is it different that they doing under this Eddie? What's his name?
Eddie
Kane? Eddie?
Eddie Eagle,
I said Eddie Kane. You know who
yeah,
that is?
right. Well, okay,
Right.
so being in some areas, depending on what the area is, they allow the NRA to come in and talk about gun safety. Usually, it's for the elementary school age kids.
Really? That
Yeah.
young?
hmm Well, I mean, if you
Wow.
look at it though, but if you look at it though, it's always if you've watched the stats lately, like it was a year ago or 2 years ago, there's just a rash of kids. Most of
Yeah.
those kids weren't middle school, they weren't high school, they were
And
elementary.
accidentally.
Yeah, there
Hmm.
was the second grader shooting a fourth grader, or vice
Yeah, I
versa.
think I remember that.
Yeah. So, but they have been doing that. That's been a long time. I know when I was growing up, we didn't get it, but I heard about it. But
Hmm.
a lot of school districts are like, no, we're not doing that. And I mean, that's their prerogative. They can choose to do that. But when we have a rash of kids shooting, these accidental shootings, well, something needs to be done. Number one, firearms need to be secured. But number two, you know, kids need to be taught gun safety.
Hmm. So why do you think we don't when we especially when you have all of this that's going on in the the various communities and things of that nature? Why do you think we don't have that? You know,
That's a good question. But I think a lot of it is, you know, there'd be some parents who would object to it. Um, that's a very good question. I really couldn't begin to tell you exactly why that's the case. But I do know, culturally speaking, for a lot of it is just like we don't discuss that in uh, we don't discuss that in school. And
hmm
some people don't discuss it at home. It's a lot of times it's a secret in the home.
right? But look at the issues like Sandy Hook. You know, all these things that all these tragedies that happen in the school. Um, and of course, the kids, they were at school just doing their regular, going about their regular day. But I just wondering, why don't we just, we're not asking to bring guns in the school, but why isn't it just not have that conversation about, hey, don't touch and because sometimes they think it's I don't know, they probably think it's toys or what, and you know because we talk about other things. I mean, we talk about abuse in school, we talk about trauma, because that's traumatic. If something happened, that is a traumatic event that affects everybody, that's attached to either that child or or whoever, so I'm just wondering why this type of conversation, why is it shunned, when especially when we got, so many, the statistic is so high. That's what I'm saying, and even if we're not just talking about it, even in school, maybe in civic organizations. Have you ever thought about doing a training with local municipalities, civic organizations, or um, churches? Because they carry them too. You know, just having that kind of conversation, just even because I'm gonna tell you, when I was growing up, my dad had guns, but I was petrified. I mean, not even I wouldn't even touch it. I was just petrified at the fact it was there. Not that, I've seen them shoot. I've never, I just never, I was just petrified at the fact of a gun. I mean,
Well, okay, so you're touching on a lot of things. Number one, when we talk about Sandy Hook, understand that no conversation would have kept him from doing what he was going to do. Okay, he knew exactly what he was going to do, and so that's not a conversation of don't touch it because you want to be safe. That's a whole nother ball of wax. That doesn't even fit in this conversation.
okay.
Um,
Well, I was more so talking about where the kids being hurt.
and again, that is a issue regarding school security. That's an issue regarding those drills or whatever. That really doesn't quite fit here, because what you're talking about them doing is basically what other districts do all the time, like a fire drill, you know.
Okay.
So that's not quite the same thing.
Okay.
Um, the other thing that you're speaking on is why don't we talk about it more in the home, is because, for a lot of people, it's just something you don't talk about. That's right up there with the talk. The first time your child asks you a question about sex, you're like, ooh, okay. So that's another one. And some households will deal with it directly. A lot of households won't.
So, do
And
you think the reason why we don't talk about it is because maybe people don't know how? Just like when we was growing up, like you said, the talk.
mhm,
My mother, her, it was six girls. You know what her talk was with us?
what
Keep
was
your
it?
panties up and your dress down. That was it. But, and I'm wondering, is it because they really didn't know how to make it a more of a healthy conversation? Maybe they was talking, if they talk about it, it's out of fear that we may just, be curious and go that, and go and figure it out, or go and try it because kids are just curious. So I don't know if it's because we just didn't know how to have that conversation.
I think it's possible. I think it possibly that you don't know how to have a conversation, but it's also a matter of maybe not having the information to have the
Hmm.
conversation. Um, you know, when people bring guns into the house, a lot of times for the first time, especially
Hmm.
since these last few years, the first time, you know, a lot of people are like, we have a gun in the home, and I've been approached by several parents who are like, hey, you know, my child needs a safety class, or my child needs, how do I? And they had that conversation with me about how they deal with that situation. Um, my best thing is like, well, number one, don't hide it from them. Don't make it a mystery and don't make it a secret, because if it becomes a secret, then of course, children being children are going to want to find out what the
Do
secret is.
you want them to know where it is?
I think that's going to depend. That's going to be age dependent. I think for one extent, if it's secured, yes, and because then they don't run across it. They already know where it is, so it's not something they found. They know where it's at, and then you are like, here it is. Don't touch it. Lock it. And then there's solutions for that. If you have a child that's older, that's mature enough possibly to go to the range and shoot, or if you have a child that may need to defend the home when they're home alone by themselves, there's safes that you can open from your phone at work. You can get on your cell phone, hit a button, thing opens. So there are solutions to that. Um, but it should not be a secret that there's a firearm in the home, and it should not be a secret you know, and once they know this is how you conduct yourself when this firearm is present, you know, the best thing is though to be present with the firearm and not leave it unattended with a child in the room, because even the best child has a lapse in judgment.
So you said something. You said the best way is to communicate how to use the firearm, and you know. So would that be safe to say that reason why most households don't, because they don't know themselves how to properly
Yeah,
handle a firearm, and
a lot.
so it's
Yeah,
just like, just don't touch it. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah. And I see it a lot, especially when I go to the range. You know, people who bought firearms for the first time had no training whatsoever. Many of them went and bought, you know, semi-automatics, and then the first thing they do is get a very nasty cut on their thumb because they hold it incorrectly. Well, nobody's there to show them how to do it. You know, and some of these are the same people that are turn around and buy and are at home with children. So I think to some extent it is a lack of education. Their thing is either we're not going to tell the child, or there's going to be you don't touch this, and there's not a lot of you know safety rules involved, because a lot of them don't even know the 4 safety rules. So
Do you think that maybe, and of course this would be more money, and
mhm.
but it'll be skills, that the stores or gun owners, when you purchase a firearm, you automatically have to purchase a safety? Do you
Nope,
think they should? You don't
no,
think so?
no, absolutely not. And
Why
here's
not?
why. Because number one, okay, being able to be armed is a right, not a privilege. And when you require somebody to take a test to exercise a right, it ceases to become a right and becomes a privilege. Okay.
Wait a minute, say that again.
When you
Start
when
over.
you when you have somebody take a test to exercise a right, it's no longer a right, it's a privilege. It's just like we voting. You have to take, remember? Well, we don't remember, but if you know your history, you take a test to vote, which 9 times out of 10 you couldn't pass. Okay, but voting is a right. So when you get into that kind of thing, that becomes a very slippery slope, and it's very easy to become inequitable on who gets guns and who doesn't. So
Well, but isn't that the case now? Because you still have to they run your background check and everything. So I mean, isn't that still the case now? That if you got a spotty background, you most likely would not be given the opportunity to purchase legally a gun,
well, the spotty
firearm.
background. Well, number one, depending on how first thing is, it's felonies, and felonies can be expunged. Now that's going to cost you some money, but they can be expunged. Okay,
Oh,
so it's not exactly the same thing. Okay,
wow.
because here it is. If you pass a background check, okay,
Mhm.
they have to sell. They have to continue with the sale.
Really?
You know, if your background check comes back clean, then you can buy a gun. And if they say all of a sudden, well, we don't want to sell it to you, okay, so now we got a bigger issue. And that's not how that goes. Usually, when you're running background check, they want to sell you the gun. So
Mm-hmm.
um, that's different. To mandate safety, a safety class, now you're starting to go down that slippery slope. So what I would say is this: offer one, and a lot of places do. Some do at a reduced rate. When you buy a gun there, you can certain places you can in many ranges will you can take a class at a reduced rate, like a first time owners class or whatever. And I would suggest if your particular place offers that, take it. But I don't think it should be mandated, because
Okay.
reality is you don't need a driver's license to buy a car. No, you don't need a driver's license to buy a
Uh,
car.
Really? You
No,
can
you
even
don't.
drive off the parking lot?
Okay, I said buy the car.
Okay, okay.
So now to
All right,
operate it,
you getting technical on me.
now hold on, but it's not though, because to
Okay.
operate it in public is where you get all of these rules and regulations. If I bought a car and it's if I had a 4 or 5 acres out in the middle of nowhere and I bought a car and stuck it on there and only drove it around there, I don't need any of that. Unless it's financed, and it has to be insured. It has to be insured if it's financed. But if I straight bought a car cash and only ran it on my own land, I don't need any of that because it's not going to hit the public street.
Okay.
So it's the same thing, though. You know, when you buy a firearm, you're buying a firearm. And Missouri happens to allow you to then operate that firearm in public. If you're smart about it, you're going to do it with a permit.
So give us a scenario. One of the scenarios that if you do have a firearm and you don't have a permit, even though this is a CCW state and you don't have to have, or you can still carry. Give me a scenario, or give the viewers. You got 10 people on here looking right now. Give 11. It's going up. Give the viewers an example or a scenario of having one and not having a CCW, and give us the pro and cons. That's what I'm asking.
Oh, that's simple. Safe Schools Act. So if you have your CCW and you're within 1,000 feet of a school, you're fine. If you don't have your CCW and you're within 1,000 feet of a school, you're not fine. It's felony. They're the one right there.
So, like, if you just happen to get pulled over for something,
1,000 feet.
You tell them, and it's like down the street from, I don't know, Vashon, or
And what it boils down to with that is, you're not supposed to have a firearm within 1,000 feet of a school building. Okay, right. If you get caught in some way,
if you're driving down the street and you get pulled over,
right? Well, if you're driving down the street and it goes south like that, and then they find the gun, and you don't have a permit, yeah, you're gonna have a problem.
Well, you need? They shouldn't find the gun. Shouldn't you tell them you have one?
You don't have to.
Oh, you don't?
No, you was in my class. You know that.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I thought you said we were supposed to tell them I have a firearm, not a gun. No, say a firearm, because that's a trigger word.
I spoke on telling them when you think they're going to run, they're going to run across it. That's what I told you.
Okay.
You're not required in the state of Missouri to tell the officer that you have a firearm, but I said it's smart to do if they're going to run across it. And I told you about, opening the glove box with the gun in the glove box and not telling them ahead of time. That kind of freaks people out.
Right. So, for the example, what you just said with that, for an example, if we're driving down Grand, I'll just say Grand and Cass. Well, at Grand and Cass, that might be 1,000 feet. No, that's more than 1,000 feet. Let's go down just near 1,000 feet by Vashon. And you happen to get pulled over for, busted headlight or whatever. I don't know. And, of course, they run your license and stuff. And then, for whatever reason, you flip over the glove compartment to get your insurance, and they see the gun or whatever, and they ask you for your CCW. Well, you don't have one, but yet you 1,000 feet from Vashon High School. Yeah, that's a problem, right?
It could be. If the officer chose to make it a problem, it'd be a problem. Now, I mean, I don't know the stats on how many people get, hit with that, but if there wasn't further issues, that's just another charge they could tack on.
Okay.
So with your CCW,
it's safe to have one, right? Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
That's what I was agreeing with. I thought it's better safe to have one.
Oh, yeah.
So let me ask you this. I know you talked about a couple of classes you were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Those was like, handling your, firearm, your guns and stuff like that. But when is your next CCW class?
It's March 28th, Sunday. Last Sunday of March, I think, March 28th.
March 28th, and it's still at the same place, RL?
No, it's virtual. They've been virtual since COVID. The hotel at this time is not allowed to have a lot of people in that particular room, and so at this time it's virtual, so you can be in the comfort of your own home.
Oh, wow. So you need to put that information out there.
Should be coming up real shortly here. I think my wife is going to probably post it here in a minute. If not, I'll post it because it's really hard for
Okay.
me to post and talk at the same time, you know.
Yeah, well, try to do that. But yeah, it was, I just wanted to, I mean, come on because, what is some of the, and because you're dealing with the, all the different hand combats, and I forgot all those names, and
Hmm.
you deal with, the weapons and defense training and all that stuff. Give them some of the information, like, what are some of the dangers? Because I'm gonna tell you, my husband, your wife said is there already. So let me put it on the screen. She says there already. You know, one thing my husband always say, you need to be careful. You need to be careful when you get out the car. You need to, because I get out the car and I'll be doing something. And next thing you know, somebody might come up on me and I hadn't even seen them or paying attention. So he always say you need to be aware of your surrounding. And I sometimes I think I am, but apparently I'm not enough, you know. And so what are some of the things, because I know you have a trained eye and you don't miss nothing. And I can tell what is it, some of the things if you're going down the street and you'll say, okay, I need to take notice. Like if you're coming out the grocery store, I need to take notice of that. What are some of the things that our viewers nuggets that you can tell that we should probably just take notice or be aware of if we see something or if it look like something, just our surrounding? Because we always, well, me coming out, looking in my purse, grab, got the bag lady. I got 12 things trying to do it in my hand because I don't want to go back and make a second trip. So I try to grab everything at one time. What are some of the things we should take note of or notice?
Okay, so the one thing that you were talking about, we always say be aware of our surroundings. There is actually a whole system for that. It's called Jeff Cooper's color code. Jeff Cooper was a Marine from back in the day. He came up with this color code. So you have several. The first one is called condition white. Condition white is when you're totally oblivious to what's going on around you. So the only time you should be in condition white is when you're in your own home, everything's locked and you're sleeping. Okay. Um, yeah, you really shouldn't be in condition white at all. I mean, but it happens when you're watching TV, you're at home, you're under the covers, you got some hot chocolate, you're focused on your TV show. That's pretty close to condition white. Condition yellow is like when you're driving. And so you can actually be in this condition for long periods of time because Lord knows we've driven for 4 and 5 hours and you've been aware of what's going on for 4 or 5 hours. So that's when you play the what if games. That is when you start to look for things that are unusual. So, and it's entirely, yeah, and it's entirely possible that
Such as what you mean unusual?
unusual. So you are going to a gas station. Okay. Did you look around? Did you see who's standing where? Are people looking at you, looking at them? And if they're looking at you, looking at them, how hard are they looking at you? Because you'll take a glance, but are they staring? Are they watching? Um, when you look at the parking lot, is there anybody parked backwards? Because that could be an indication of somebody's going to do something they ain't got no business doing and want to make a quick getaway.
Oh,
Are there police cars parked there? And if so, how many? Because that could be an indication that something's going on. Now, I actually personally walked into one of those because I was slipping in condition white. I just was thinking about something altogether different. Walked in, 5 cops was at the door. Like, whoa, what just happened? And
wow.
they're having a discussion with the manager. I'm like, okay, let me go ahead and back away slowly. Okay. But I should have seen the 3 police cars there, but I was in la la land. So, those type of things. When you're walking down the street, if it's 90 degrees outside and someone has on a coat, that's out of the ordinary.
Okay.
That's going to cause some, people loitering. How long have they been there? What are they doing? Are they just chilling, having a good time? Or are they quiet? These type of things, out of the ordinary, odd things. Okay. Those are things that you'll see in condition yellow. And if this, then what? And then you have condition orange, where condition orange is like, okay, now there's something that's caught your attention. Now, it ain't time to shoot nobody, but you want to keep your eye out. It's like, let's see. I'm going to cross the street. Do they cross with me? If they cross the street, when you cross the street, okay, now something's up. And then we go to the next step, which is condition red. We are now preparing to do what we got to do to survive the situation. Okay. Red alert. Okay. And then, and that's where, and then it goes from there. So,
and you know what, when I was growing up, I used to, when I would go down the street, in the neighborhood and stuff, and somebody would walk on the same side, I would immediately just cross the street. Wherever I'm going, it's probably on the same sidewalk that I'm walking on, but I would just immediately cross the street just because I didn't want to walk, on the same side, or to see if they would cross the street with me. Now that I did know that, okay, if they cross the street with you and then if you cross back and they cross back, okay, the next thing just start running. Because we ain't had no gun back then, start running or scream or something. Now I did know that. But the bagging in, as we talk about bagging in the parking lot, I never thought about that because I always figured, people just like to drive out, in they parking lot. They just bag in and just like to drive out. So that's something new that I never paid any attention to. Now, when there's police cars, probably because I'm just being nosy, like, okay, what's going on, and I didn't look at it as if it was a yellow flag or yellow color or something, just being nosy, like what's going on, and trying to figure out, should I stop or what, those things. But some of the stuff, I didn't know about, I didn't pay attention to, and I'm going to work on it because a lot of times I'm probably is in that, what you call it, the white zone or something.
white, yeah, condition white.
Oh yeah. My husband probably like, that's her. And I probably, because I'm always thinking of doing something. But the one thing I do know, they were saying something about one, I don't know if it was this year or last year, how people will put stuff on your windshield. Like if you go into the store or something and they will put something on your windshield, like a flyer or something. And they would say, stop doing that. Don't, if you see it, don't get back out the car and pull it. Just drive off and go where you're going, and then wherever destination you get to, then you pull it up because it could be a trap. You get in your car and then you see something on your windshield and you open your door to get back out. Have you heard that before?
Well, I could see that. I have not heard that before, but here's the thing that I would say. You didn't look at your car on the way to it to see it from far away anyway. So that discusses just how to negotiate a parking lot. So when I walk down a parking lot, first thing I do when I step out, number one, I don't carry a whole bunch of bags in my hand.
Okay, that's me.
That's number one. I don't carry a whole bunch of bags in my hand because I'm gonna be 100. I tell anybody, when you see me, I'm pretty much armed. So my free hand can access my firearm. If I'm in a place where I don't have a firearm, which is very rare, but it happens, I have at least one hand to fend off anything and everything. So number one, you don't have you don't want to have all of your bags, and you don't want to be with two hands because you don't want to be that person. That's why you have baskets. Put them in a basket. Okay. If you got to make a second trip, make the second trip. You should always have one hand free. Okay. Then from that point, when I walk down the aisle, I'm looking. I've got a general overview as to what the aisle is, and I'm real good at losing where I forget where I park. So I always chart my vehicle, so I know exactly where I'm going. Okay. And if for some reason it doesn't go off, I don't make a habit of walking between cars. I will go down and around. Just because that's a fatal funnel area. So I don't make a habit of doing that.
Don't walk in between cars.
I don't, especially if somebody's in those cars, but everybody takes shortcuts. If you're going to do that, at least look and see in the cars if there's anybody in it. If there's somebody in it, maybe you want to go 1-2 cars down where they're empty. But yeah, so remember where you park. That's when I got to work on. And then look around, are there people in cars? And if they're in the cars, what are they doing? Better yet, are they near your car? And if they're in their car near your car, what are they doing? You know, and then that may give you an idea. You know, you might say, okay, well, you know, this is if something's not right, it don't feel right, it ain't right. Okay.
Okay.
So what they say, just because you're paranoid doesn't necessarily mean somebody's not out to get you. You know, so if it don't feel right, it ain't right. So you can wait till they pull off, or if you really gotta go into the passenger side. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
So you're saying, I know one thing that I'm going to take away, because you said that is really key,
Hmm.
and I'm going to work on that. Lord knows I need to work on it. Always keep one hand free.
Yeah.
Always keep one. So if you got bags, you carry your bags and you keep one hand free. Never just go in with your hands full
Right.
anywhere. Okay. So you always say keep one hand free, and you always said that, look at your yellow areas, what stands out,
Yeah.
right? What stands out. Now, of course, I have noticed people in the summer with coats, and it would raise my attention, like, why they got a coat on this hot, unless they were homeless, that is different. But if I see somebody with homeless, I mean, wearing a coat or a jacket, or either another thing that I have been cautious of is when I see these kids walking around in the summer with book bags, and school is not in. And so I'm like, okay, well, why they walking around with a book bag?
Well, I would say this. Part of that is youth culture. So, you know,
You say
um,
your creep alert.
yeah, part of that is youth culture. So you kind of have to be aware. Like for all you know, that's a PlayStation in there. They're going to their friend's house. So you because they have a bag on and it's not school doesn't mean they're not using that bag. Some kids got summer athletics. So you can't necessarily say, well, they got a bag on. That's what are they doing? See, when you're talking about assessing a threat, it's not one thing, it's a series of things. And then
See,
you make a
well,
judgment call
I
off
think
the
it was
series.
last year for Halloween, where,
Hmm.
we turns the light out because we don't do Halloween, give candy and all that stuff. Well, these two guys came up to our door talking about trick or treat. They was
See,
like 16, 17-year old with book bags. We was like, no, we're not opening that door, and we're not doing trick or treat. First of all, you 17, go, you talking about trick or treat. And so my first thing, we're thinking, I'm not gonna open this door, and you open the door, and then probably get knocked upside your head or something, because I'm like, first of all, you don't live in this neighborhood. I don't know you. I've never seen you before. I've been over 20 some years. I've never seen you before. I don't know where you come from, and so it's just a lot of things, and it's just been some good nuggets that you have been giving us. And so, Everett, I know it's with this pandemic, hopefully by the summer, I would like to get a group session. I don't know if you could talk about hand to hand or CCW, because we know we did that. But I would like to get a group of women, because the nature of what we deal with, and so we want to at least have this service. Even our organization paid for it. This service provided to a group of women, because with statistics, a couple of years ago, and I haven't had the statistics lately because they haven't brought out 19 or 20 statistics. But 2018, we had over, in the state of Missouri, over 70 women who um, were killed, and they had their order protections on them.
well, the thing about it is that order protection doesn't protect you from anything.
Right, it don't.
It never has.
Yeah, and that's what we educate them. That's just a piece of paper. If
Yeah.
they don't care about that piece of paper and stuff. And so, just some of the things, even just what you're talking about, the awareness, and the white zone and the yellow zone and the red zone and the orange zone. Is there another zone? Is there a green?
Well, you know what? There is a
Black?
black. There is a black, and that is fights on. You are actively now trying to protect yourself. Um, so that's like after the red alert, the first shot, the first punch, the first, you know, movement to run, or a combination thereof. I usually stick with the 4 because red alert, me being a science fiction fan, red alert means, weapons hot, you ready to go. Somebody start tripping, photon torpedoes, So I don't really go into black, but some people do use a condition black. So,
Okay. We have a viewer. She said creep alert, or are we referring to stalking?
we're referring to anything that makes your hair stand up. You can know this person, you can not know this person. You could be walking and just something ain't right across the street. It's not necessarily someone actively stalking you. Now, when we talk about stalking, if you know this individual, then by all means, basically what's good, what a restraining order is good for is a paper trail. You got it on record that this person's harassing you. So if anything happens, there's a record versus ignoring it, and then something happens and now you have nothing to back up your story, which you inevitably are going to have your attorney tell the police. Because that's going to be a question. Well, if you knew that they were doing this, did you go to and did you seek help? They're going to ask you all that.
Right, and that's part of our education is even when we tell people when you have restraining orders and we get you restraining orders and help you with it. One thing is we communicate with, and that's part of the educational piece is when you get a restraining order, first of all, it's just a piece of paper. 2, you got to change your route. If you go to the grocery store every Tuesday at 7, you need to switch the day and the time because they already know your route. And so when you get a restraining order, you can't go about your day and your life like you normally would. You got to switch up. If you go down Kings Highway to 1 to 70 and get off at Lucas Hunt to go to work every day, when you get the restraining order, you're gonna have to go another route, especially if they know your route. And so that's part of the educational piece that we communicate and share with them because like you said, it's just a piece of paper. If anything, it's gonna aggravate them even more that you got it on them. You got them on papers. And so that's one of that's why we have this conversation. That's why JADASA Live started. It started out of the pandemic. We still had to try to work with these people. We still had to try to get them information. And even though we were sitting at home, they were sitting at home with the abuser going through. And so we tried to come up with this platform which is really been really good and get information to them, all this information, because this stuff that you're telling I didn't know, and I don't know it all. I don't. That's why I call y'all to come on, on the broadcast to share because and so we got 3 minutes. So I want you, Everett, to say, give them some kind of nugget that you want them to know that we probably don't know. I want you again to give your website, your information. I want you to tell us about your class again, so they can and how they can get in touch with you to be a part of the class.
Okay, so first thing, my contact information. You can reach me through either Facebook or Instagram. That's your quickest, easiest way. So that's Townsend Defense STL for Facebook. Instagram is Townsend_Defense. Shoot me a private message. I'll get back to you. That's probably the quickest way. You could call. I do have a number somewhere. It's don't even remember it. That's how often I use it. I don't really even remember it off the top of my head. It's basically 775 Krav MGA. 775 Krav Maga, basically. Which is why I had that. So that's one way. You can also email me at Townsend Defense at gmail.com. All one word. Townsend Defense, 2 D's. All one word. You can email me there. Like I said, but if you got something that you really want to talk about, hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, because I'm always on Facebook and Instagram. See, there's a number right there, 775 KRAVMGA. So I have a CCW class coming up May 28th. I'm not May, March 28th. That's a Sunday. That announcement is out actually. So if you go to my Facebook page, it'll be out on Instagram here in a minute. I haven't put it on Instagram yet. Is there. You can sign up. Also on my Facebook page is the Basic Defensive Pistol 101. And if you are a more experienced shooter, then you also have the Fighting EDC. So if you want to learn how to use firearms, and I also do private one-on-one lessons. So if you've never picked up a firearm, ever, I got you. Then you can get on my training schedule. Just make contact with me. I'll get you the link to the training schedule, and you can just simply just get on the training schedule. Let me know, hey, I'm a beginner, new shooter. Touch base with me. We'll talk about it. If you have some traumas, anxieties, we can work around that and go from there. Right now, hand-to-hand is on hold because of COVID. So my location right now has shut down, so I'm not doing hand-to-hand. I really am only doing firearms at this time. Now, if you have your own place, then we can have that discussion for hand-to-hand.
Awesome, awesome. And he is really good, you guys, because I qualified on the first round.
Yeah.
I qualified, me, the one that was scared to touch a gun, but I qualified, and he is awesome. He is certified in hand-to-hand combat. He's a certified CCW instructor. And then you partner with some other organizations around the state of Missouri. You're certified. There's Shauna Renee saying he's an excellent trainer. So you have your people on here that's talking and
Hey.
sharing. He is. And so you also work with other organizations. You have worked with other organizations as well, right? Like the police department or somebody.
It wasn't the police department. Let's see. I was trying to get to deal with some people. I was trying to get the police department I was trying to consult with them to allow me to help them with some of the officers who are struggling with qualification.
Okay. But you're certified in the state of Missouri. Anywhere in the
Yes,
state of Missouri, you're
yes,
certified.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Awesome. So you guys have it. Townsend Defense. This is Everett Townsend of Townsend Defense. He's gave you the information. He's giving you the information on social media as far as um, the Facebook page, the Instagram page, Calendly.com, Townsend Defense. He's giving you the phone number 775-KRABMGA. You can go to his Gmail account. You can go to his Everett Townsend Facebook page, his personal page, if you need to contact him that way. Or you can even reach out to me and I can get you the information. But I promise you, you won't regret it. The information is awesome. Somebody else saying you're a great daddy and trainer. Oh, that's the baby. Oh, isn't that sweet? Because I'm thinking, wait a minute, daddy typing. But yeah, so we just want you to know that we want you to be safe. We want you to be safe in however, with defense and firearms, because you know what, if you're gonna have, we're not, if you're gonna get one, you want to be careful, and you want to have use it properly. You want to be able to handle it properly. And so that's something that we are sharing out here, information, and we're going to bring them back again. And hopefully this summer we can get together. JADASA can pull some women together, and we can get a group with Townsend. Maybe we can go out on the range. It don't have to be hand to hand combat or whatever defense. Maybe out on the range or something. Of course, you're gonna have to already have your CCW.
no,
Is
wait
that
a minute.
correct?
No, you don't.
You know,
No, you don't.
you know. Okay, well,
Hmm.
correct me.
Hmm.
So you
If
don't
you
have to, but we're
no,
gonna work on trying to get a date and to get a spot and come up with some resources and get some women so we can make it a day event, because it's like a 4-day event, right?
for yeah, it can be whatever. If you're getting something together with your organization, it can be as long or as short as you want it to be.
Okay.
I
Okay.
would
So we
recommend at least if it's depending on how many people it is. If it's like 10 people, you want a few hours. But if it's like five, 2 hours, at 2 or 3 hours. Um, yeah, and if they've never picked up a gun before, fine. I can deal with that.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So ladies, this is another down in the discussion down in the books. Again, this will always be on Facebook page. It's always on JADASA Live social media page, and it will be also housed on our website and archived as well. So you can always go back and look at this information to get any information you need out of it. So with that being said, I am so excited that you came on
I
and he
appreciate
has
it.
given us the information. And ladies, I will look to see you in 2 weeks. Have a good night. Bye bye.
Thank you very much.